As noted in my buzz update that went out on Friday, Moody's has again upgraded the district's overall bond rating to an A2 from an A3. That's an increase of 5 positions on their rating scale in the past 4 years. And that continues to speak towards the board's focus on creating and maintaining fiscal stability within the district as we continue to rebound from the impact of Michigan's recession a number of years ago. There was a story this morning, which would be the first story on the website that I'll reference today on Serenity and Gemini, which are the detection dog team and social emotional support team that have joined the district within the last month. Fox did a really nice piece on that, so if you're interested in viewing that story, it is on their website. And get a chance to see Gemini actually performing all her responsibilities from detection to social emotional support, interacting with their students, to playing fetch on in the performance gym. So still a dog. But Serenity and Gemini have been outstanding assets to the district, continue to increase the positive interactions and relationships they have with their staff and students, and just another layer of safety and security in keeping with board goal number 4, which of course is the focus of that objective. Serenity and Gemini will be here at the next board meeting as part of the Ed update, so board members will have an opportunity to meet them and ask Serenity some questions about her role and the capabilities that Gemini brings to the district. Our middle school quiz bowl team has kind of a bit of a dynasty going, so I know Coach Ellis is here this evening, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this will be the 4th year, consecutive year.
This is the first year if I can come up. So
sure.
This is our first year. We actually qualified 2 teams at the middle school level and 1 at the high school level. But this is the 4th year for the middle school, and we're making plans to head to Chicago again. Thank you, board, for approving that. So it's pretty exciting. All right, thanks.
Yeah. It's an awesome accomplishment, and the fact that both teams qualified for nationals is pretty impressive coming out of one middle school. So great job, Coach Ellis, and all the students involved with that, and look to see how they do in Chicago. Also included on the website is a story on the Chamber of Commerce Community Awards. As the board is aware, we had 2 different representatives from the school district receive honors that evening. The first was the Food Service Department, which was recognized as Restaurant of the Year. Kind of an outside the box perspective, but it was provided in recognition of the work they did during the pandemic by providing food to the Williamston community and the surrounding communities. And as you know, Mr. Bob Duffy was also recognized as Educator of the Year. I'm somewhat biased, obviously, but I thought it was a nice ceremony, an opportunity to really recognize some great members of our community that do some really amazing things, both for our schools and the community at large. So, story is posted on there. Our bands also had a very successful last couple weeks. Our 7th and 8th grade bands all earned superior ratings at their festival, and are talking about dynasties. Our high school band again earned a 1 overall rating at their performance last week. So another strong tradition in terms of the performing arts in our district. And then finishing up, returning back to board goal number 4, safety and security. There's a story posted on P-Nice basketball game that has become, again, a tradition annually now, partnering with Hazlet Public Schools, which is a fellow P-Nice district. Both schools, P-Nice student clubs are represented at the evening. They both come out to provide support. And we have really started to embed that concept, that mental health awareness concept, into our athletic programs. It does a number of things. It increases awareness amongst the students, but it also brings more members of the community in, become educated and informed about not only the mental health issues our students and our staff are working through, but also solutions and resources that are available to assist them. So great job by Kate Wilcox, Caitlin Griffiths, Ann McKinney, and Paige Polson with putting that together, and the students who had the recordings produced and would be able to play for the audience and everyone involved with the Be Nice Club. Those are my celebrations for this evening. Like I said, I'll have a couple more things that just recently transpired to celebrate at our 20 March meeting. But pending your questions, that's what I have for you this evening.
Any questions for Adam? All right, for our education update, we have our district mental health, wellness, and health resource advocate here to present, Ms. Heather Gulick.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. Many of you know me as a kindergarten teacher. In 2020, I got my degree in psychology and education, and that qualified me to assume additional roles in the district. And I'm so thrilled to be able to be a part of a wraparound wellness for our district as the district health resource advocate, mental health and wellness specialist. I know it's a big, long title. Oh, is that the micro? Okay. So I want to go, is this my, here we go. Okay. My guiding principle in everything that I do. So this position is being created as we go, and it's in response to the needs of our district. And building by building, I check in with administrators and with staff and with students, and I'm responsive in that way. So my guiding principle is to empower students and staff to build their own capabilities surrounding mental health and wellness and social emotional skills over time. That's my guiding principle. Now within that framework, I think about my job as kind of three-pronged. One is with the students, supporting, teaching, pushing in for students. Two is with the staff, supporting them as they reach out to me. And then, of course, also in their classrooms, supporting them within their classrooms. And the third prong is our systemic wellness as an organization. You know, what can I do with that? And there are lots of things cooking, so to speak, with that I'll address later. So that's kind of my guiding principle. When you think about mental health and wraparound services, you think about primarily reactive services. So once an issue or a challenge manifests or presents itself, then we seek the professionals to help us with that. Now for me, I certainly do some of that, but I would say I'm primarily a proactive approach to mental health and wellness and social emotional skills. So I'm there scaffolding from the very youngest of ages. I'm in Young Fives every single week. Within the context of a month, as you can see on the slide, I reach all of our Discovery students. And I push in and I'm teaching these skills, these wellness skills. And just like with the Be Nice program, it's to have it be a conversation, to be systemic, that we're talking about feelings, we're talking about managing our feelings, we're talking about wellness all the time, from our earliest learners all the way through our high schoolers and to our staff members. So I also, within the context of that, this year have been teaching zones of regulation, and that is about self-awareness and self-management in terms of our emotions. And I also wrote a grant to get emotional regulation tools in all the classrooms in Discovery and Explorer. And I was awarded that grant. We've purchased those items. I helped teachers set up calming spaces or calming baskets so that those are available to students who are in need of some assistance with emotional regulation. So that's one of the services that I've been providing for our youngest learners. In addition to that, I am providing resources, print materials, cards that have emotional regulation ideas on them to keep in their calm corners or in their wellness baskets. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades in supporting students and staff members in a tier 1, which means available to everyone fashion. Now in Explorer, that is primarily also my role in Explorer, which is providing all of those things. I'm teaching zones of regulation in second step, just like in Discovery. I'm providing all of those push-in lessons. I'm providing the same resources that I mentioned for Discovery. Now, also in Explorer, I've been more of a consultant of sorts. So I've had different teachers reach out to me. One third grade teacher, for example, said, Heather, I've got just a really anxious group, lots of anxiety in my group. Can you come in and do a lesson just on anxiety? So I crafted a lesson and went in on anxiety. So it's off book a little bit. It's off of our programs that we are implementing with Fidelity across for Tier 1 services. But I'm just kind of reactive in that way. So I need help with anxiety. I need help with this one student. So I'm also meeting those needs on a case-by-case basis. For the middle school, I have been taking over the wellness AOT time. Are you familiar with AOT, the academic overtime? Okay, so I'm an option during that time, and I do it with Pete Cool, and we talk about mental and physical wellness, and it's become extremely popular. We had one day where we had 35 students and only, 30 desks, so we had this overflow. So we actually had to cap it to be able to meet everybody's needs. So I'm really excited about that. I have students who are coming each week unless they have an academic need or retaking a test or whatnot. But that's been really popular, and I'm excited to hopefully expand that next year, those types of offerings in the middle school. I'm also visiting specific teachers as requested. So 3 teachers actually have reached out to me in the middle school and said, my 5th hour is it's really difficult for me. Can you come in, see what you think, talk to them about emotional regulation, zones of regulation. So I've done that for several teachers. So that's kind of another one of my services that I've been provided. In the high school. So in the high school, I work with Kate Wilcox. You heard her name in regards to the Be Nice. I am working with her on our trails lessons. So our trails lessons are pushed out during a dedicated AOT time now. I'm so thrilled that we have a dedicated AOT time for trails now. And Johnny just did a lesson, and I just started playing it before I came, and you had your Beatles song going, so well done you. We get some guest speakers, guest teachers on it as well. So Kate and I got together and we split it in half, and I took half and she took half, and then we had some wonderful teachers pick up, so there are star teachers. And so that pushes out to everyone, 9th through 12th. Everyone gets that in our dedicated AOT time. So that's been a really powerful program. And then also on a case-by-case basis, so I had senior English reach out. I've been doing this actually for 3 years. But again, they reached out and they wanted a session on resilience and wellness as they're finishing their school career and moving on to whatever is next for them, be it college, workforce, military. So I was happy to do that this year. I also was reached out to by Yearbook, and we did some team building. The Yearbook said, we've got some things going on. I think we can be a more cohesive team. Can you come in and run a session? And we did 2 sessions, and that was really powerful as well. I also did the same thing for Model UN in preparation for their first big, they went to Grand Rapids, I think, for the first time. Munis, I think it is, not Munis.
Model UN?
Yes, Model UN, but there was the acronym for down in Grand Rapids. I know Juliana won.
That was Kalamazoo, Munham.
Kalamazoo, yes, yep, and she won. His daughter won. Fantastic. Anyway, I went in to prepare them for that. So we talked about emotional regulation techniques and preparing for performance. And then lastly, I assist with our PALS program, which I hope to expand that next year as well. In addition to that, I provide Tier 2 services on a case-by-case basis to students. So I start every morning in the high school, and my office is open. I have I have students come in before school and in passing, and I meet with them regularly as well, and we work on whatever they're working on. And this is where I'm going to go off book a little bit to let you know that in addition to the Tier 1, the Tier 2 services are maybe the power of my position. I'm available. So on the first day of school, we had a senior who was really upset and in the bathroom and needed someone, and I was able to go and help transition him to class. You know, the Okemos day, the day after the Okemos hoax, we had a really upset student I was called down to the TV broadcasting, and he was in the back room, and I was able to help him. So, you know, there are these on-call services that I'm also providing that are really powerful and a big part of what I do in the high school. Just this morning, I met with a student who is an exchange student, and she was struggling with some of the coursework, and we talked about that and made a plan to get together. So it's not only mental health and wellness, but just academic needs, functioning needs with our high schoolers. Now, in talking about Tier 2 services district-wide, I've referenced this already, but at each building, it is a case-by-case basis. So teachers will reach out to me to work with specific students or with whole classes, as I mentioned before, and we work on things like stress management and anxiety, self-regulation, and then in the younger grades, separation anxiety. That was big at the beginning of the year with the younger learners. So I was on hand for that, transitioning from the car loop to classrooms with tiers, things of that nature. And then when I'm meeting with students on these skills, the anxiety, the emotional regulation, the stress management, or even the academic needs that they may have, I also, if I realize that they need more intensive services, then at that point I'm a liaison and I refer them to the next layer, which might be the school social worker or a counselor. Or we also have a wonderful service from the ISD. We have a mental health specialist from the ISD who comes in 1 day a week. So I work with her as well. And the other pronged approach, so I talked a lot about students, but let's talk about staff. I provide a tremendous amount of professional development for staff. So even just this past Friday, we had the half day for PD, and I was an explorer doing professional development for them on wellness strategies and self-care, actually. I've been working with the high school staff a lot. We've done 3 sessions on adult social emotional learning, emotional regulation, and emotional intelligence. I am really excited to say I've been able to coordinate a wrap around zones of regulation PD for all staff who work with students. So I gave the same zones of regulation training to our secretaries, our custodians, our noon staff, our paraprofessionals, our teachers. Everybody but the bus drivers. I'm still working on that. Adam's still working on getting with Pam for a time that we can do with the bus drivers. But it is so incredible when you're all trained on the same thing and you have the same language to use with kids. I see that you're a little elevated. You might be in the yellow zone. Do you need to take a breath? Do you need to take a time away? You know, we have that across with consistency. And wherever students are, in the library with Miss Mickey, in the office when they fell and bumped their knee, all of the adults have this same common language and these concepts in dealing with the children. So that's been really powerful as well. Most recently, I wrote a grant for the Calm app use within the classroom. I had a first grade teacher tell me, Heather, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Could we write a grant? I've been using these free resources from Calm to have mindfulness within the classroom. So, taking a mindful moment or a breath exercise or some calming music, things that can be in the background while you're working to keep the energy level smooth and calm. And I said, that sounds like a great idea. I'll look into it. I got the grant, and just this week we're onboarding. So all of our Discovery and Explorer teachers have access to that to use in their classrooms. So they can have a quick mindful break. They can have mindful movement. They can have soundscapes on in the background for calming music and focus time. They have Calm has specific music for calming and for focus and attention. So it's a really great resource that we're just starting to see the benefits from. I saw it used in 2 classrooms today when I taught in 5 different classrooms today, and I saw it already being used in 2, so I was really excited about that. We're not all onboarded yet, but we're working on that. So I'm just going to go through the last of the PD. In the middle school, I'm providing resources for them. I haven't been in to provide PD for them, but Deb has reached out to me for some trauma-informed and SEL pieces that they've been using in the context of their PD. And then, of course, I talked about in the high school, I provided resilience PD before school started, and then I've been doing the staff meetings with them. So lots and lots and lots of PD, which I love, because then we get that consistency across the district and that common knowledge and that common language, which I think is really powerful for the children. Okay, I also serve on our district leadership team, and I've been the guest speaker several times this year. I've provided presentations on organizational wellness, which is that third prong that I like to think of my job as encompassing the students, the staff, and the organization as a system. I also provided a presentation on emotional intelligence. After the MSU incident, our DLT was, what I had planned was postponed, and we held space and talked about how we could wrap around our teachers and our students most effectively. And then next, which will be next week, I will be bringing our DLT team through thoughts versus feelings and the CBT model, which our Trails curriculum teaches in the middle school and the high school. So an awareness for our district leadership team on what is being taught to our students. And I mentioned before the 2 grants that I have written and awarded that have provided emotional regulation materials to all of the classrooms in Discovery, all of the classrooms in Explorer, and actually also Little Hornets. They also were a recipient with that grant. And then the Calm for All for our youngest learners, as I mentioned. Now we're going to move on to climate and culture and just systemic wellness, because I also see that as part of my role in this job. So for staff wellness, I've done a few, I guess you would say, big things that required a lot of coordinating, including a wellness staff meeting for Discovery and a wellness staff meeting for Explorer. And we had, some PD surrounding social emotional learning and emotional intelligence, but primarily it was about self-care. And we had Williamston Wellness come and provide 10-minute chair massages. We had our wonderful Methodist Church provide healthy snacks for us. So we had yogurt parfaits. We had a gratitude station. I got tremendous feedback from that. Usually when we visit a staff meeting, we leave with another thing we need to implement or another thing we need to tweak. And in this case, it was just a deep exhale and just enjoy each other and learn more about SEL and emotional intelligence. So those were very well received. In the high school, Maggie Myers and I, we put on a wellness week, actually, and that was very well received. I think, Johnny, that was pretty fun, right? Our wellness week, yes. And Johnny also provides wellness for us by coffee on Fridays and his playing, which we appreciate so much. It goes to climate and culture. And upcoming next week with conferences and all of the things, we're going to be doing Beat the Winter Blues, and we have thematic events for that as well. And I'm still working out the details of this, but Chris Lewis's daughter, Juliana, and I are working on reconceptualizing the courtyard space in the high school as a wellness space. We would love to make it more welcoming for staff and students to go outside and enjoy the outside. As we all know, nature is absolutely a part of wellness. We want to plant lavender and other herbs that can be used, these fresh herbs that Jim Davis would love to be using in his cooking. So we're trying to work through all of these things. There are a few obstacles and stumbling blocks that we're figuring out, but we're still working on that. So that I can't possibly tell you all I do probably in this 11-slide presentation, but I would love to hear any questions that you have. If I can answer them, I am happy to do that.
Any questions further?
I don't think I have anything specific other than the AOT time. Was that what we had passed last year, and we're just like diving deeper into those individual?
I think so. The Trails program.
Yes.
That's kind of the curriculum base, so to speak, for some of the lessons. AOT is academic overtime. That's a structure that's been in existence for a number of years at the high school and the middle school.
Yeah.
And it kind of provides that break in the schedule, that space to be able to kind of provide instruction of this type or address other things that wouldn't normally fit into the typical schedule. So,
Okay.
so Heather has been very proactive in taking lead on that to bring the SEL component, the mental health component, into that AOT space as time events.
Okay.
Both in the middle school and the high
Yeah,
school to
I
kind
just
of
knew
get it
that
out
we had it
there.
and you had mentioned it, so I thought, well, that's good because they're getting deeper and
Yeah.
having more conversation around that than playing a video for like 20 minutes. And it's not,
Exactly.
kind of like sit back.
And that's
so.
that dedicated time is kind of opening that for that reason, that space where there can be more rich discussions after the quick video.
Right, perfect.
Yeah, so it's nice to have that dedicated time for
Yeah.
that, for that curriculum. Yes.
I don't think
Amanda.
we need to take everyone's time to go into it now, but
Uh-huh.
I would love to hear more about the regulation zone, so I can mirror that language at home.
Oh, parent
I
night.
just Googled it. It was like right there, regulations on, because I was the same way. I'm like, what's emotional
You guys-
intelligence? So I need to talk to my children about.
I so did. Your children are very emotionally intelligent. You're good. And so are yours. But what I'm thinking of is I wanted to come in and do a zones of regulation with you, but
I would enjoy
for
it.
brevity's sake, you know, if we want to be here all night, I didn't. Oh, my son is here. Oh,
Emotionally intelligent back there.
gosh, I got oh.
Yeah, he snuck in once you got to the photo.
When did he get? Thank you for being here, you guys. So I would love to teach you more about that. Do you want me to come back and teach you about that, or share a slideshow with you, or how can I fill that need for you?
Well, I assume you probably already have it in a slideshow, maybe we could just have
I do.
access to it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I absolutely do. I have it in a slideshow for every level, so you can have the youngest learners, or you can have the high school resilience zone.
That's one of the things I've really liked to see when we talk about planning these initiatives, right? It's all kind of high level stuff, and it's amongst your senior leadership in the district. When you know it's actually being effective is when you see students utilizing those tools and talking the language. And I think, just in the short time Heather's been in this role, we've seen a tremendous gain in terms of students understanding and being able to internalize some of the concepts that she's teaching. And joking around, like I have been, I guess, inquired to by my 6-year-old several occasions as to whether or not I'm in the red zone.
Red zone means you're losing it, by the way. Red zone is not the good one.
So, if he's talking the language at kindergarten level, that's a good sign that it's definitely being integrated into our culture. So.
Oh, I love to hear that. Thank you. I'm so glad it's getting applied. You hope it lands and you hope it has application in their lives. So it's great to hear that.
Heather, I have a
Yes.
question about resilience.
Sure.
Educators used to say, kind of like creativity, that you have it or you don't. And then they found that, no, you can teach creativity. So I'm interested that you can teach resilience. So can you just briefly tell me a couple ways?
Absolutely. So the community resilience model is what I pull from for this. And it is absolutely, it can be taught. And so for resilience, basically it's a physiological thing. You know, we think of resilience as this cognitive construct, like I'm mentally tough and I can bounce back and I'll be better next time. And that is a piece of it, but actually what the research is bearing out is that it's actually a physiological thing. We can hack into, so we have that fight or flight, right? Our amygdala goes off and we're in that fight or flight, and we can hack into that with breathing techniques and grounding techniques. And so the CRM model lets us have those specific action items, starting with the breath, to calm our physiology and to get that parasympathetic nervous system back online so that our prefrontal cortex comes back online and we can make our best decision. So it's breathing, it is resourcing. You know, what do we have available? We did the anchors on DLT, and I've done it now with all of Explorer, and I did it with Explorer staff as well. Our resources. So they make us resilient. So we have internal resources, particular strengths that are unique to us. And we have external resources like our family and our friends and our local YMCA, or, you know, whatever we have. So talking about resourcing, so breath, grounding, you know, grounding, breath, grounding, resourcing, and they have what's called pause and shift. So if you can hack into your nervous system when you're in that fight or flight and then shift your thinking cognitively, so positive self-talk, all of those lead to resilience, and they absolutely are skills that can be explicitly taught.
That's great.
Thank you for asking that wonderful question.
So Heather, you talked a bit about working with our psychologists and working with others in the
Yeah.
school district to be able to support our kids. As you are doing the work that you're doing, how does your work intersect to build a comprehensive view of the students that you're working with, so that what you're doing is not siloed from what the counselors are doing, with what the social workers are doing, with what the psychologists are doing?
That is a really, really, really good question, and that requires our communication. So there are meetings. So the students that I work with individually, I keep track of that. I take notes on that, and then that's shared with our school social workers and our school psychologists, so that there's an awareness for everyone, so that we know, oh yeah, she's on my caseload and we work on this, and so we have that awareness. And then, of course, we're working Tier 1 together as well. So one of the things, I was remiss not to mention this before, one of the things that's so powerful about this position is because I am so primarily Tier 1 in pushing in and teaching these skills proactively, I free up the school social workers and the school psychologists' time a little bit more, because they were responsible for all the Tier 1, but they were putting out fires and, you know, responding. They really need to be in their Tier 2 and Tier 3. So having me as a person in the classrooms building these skills, then they have more time to meet with small groups and to meet with individuals. So that is a powerful part of my position, is to kind of facilitate all of that happening, that shifting of resources.
And I guess one other thing that comes to my mind is, as you're looking from a high level and looking at mental health within our district, you're working with staff and you're working with students. Are there specific areas or issues that you're seeing that have not yet been addressed that need to be addressed?
What a good question. So, to your point, we have tremendous programs happening. We are working on getting a comprehensive social emotional learning program for our youngest grades. So young 5s through 5th grade, and we're working on that. We were just, Michelle and I were just talking about that. I would also, what's amazing is that young 5s through 5th grade is getting zones of regulation, which, I really wish I would have started with that activity so everybody knows what I'm talking about. I know Adam does from Seneca, but so there's a hole. We have a hole because young 5s through 5th grade has it. I'm in Pete's AOT. They have it. Those 22 kids have it. But there's that 6th and 8th that doesn't, really the middle school. I would like to be able to do more with zones of regulation in the middle school. Now, those 5th graders are going to go there next year, and they have it. I mean, they will have, with fidelity, made it through the entire set of lessons, and then some with supplement. So they will take that to 6th grade. So then it's the 7th and 8th grade that I want to get to. And then they have that going into the high school where Trails really takes over and the Resilient Zone really takes over as a more nuanced look at emotional regulation. So yeah, that's where I would say I would need to concentrate my time, and I hope that I can fill those holes there. Yeah.
So what about the parents? Are you going to have a parent meeting?
Yeah, so actually, Adam and I talked about this not too long ago. I want to have a wellness night, and Juliana and I were talking about, if we could have the courtyard space done, and we could have this wellness night at the high school in the spring. But what we're finding is it's very hard to get parents here in that busy springtime. You almost have to attach it to something that's already happening in the district. So, for instance, our Be Nice program, the football game and the basketball game, boys and girls basketball and the football game, you already have a captive audience, they're already there. And so then it's powerful to have student athletes or whatever, give their spiels and bring the message out. So yes, we want to have a parent night, and I have it all envisioned. I want it kiosk style where students are actually the ones running it. With all of our offerings, because we have a lot. You guys, we have a lot. Thank you for everything, because you've approved, the PALs and the second step and the zones of regulation and the Be Nice and the trails. I mean, we have a lot, and I know that parents would be interested in hearing more about it, especially from their students. So we want to do that, but we know we need to attach it to something to get people here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could maybe have the students do a production and put it on YouTube and ask the parents to look at it there if they don't ever come to some things.
Oh, that's a really good idea. Thank you for that. I hadn't entertained that thought. Thank you for that. Yeah. Yes, I definitely want, I want something for parents for sure. Sounds techie, but I'm sure we can have high school TV broadcasting and take care of that for us. I'm sure of it.
So Heather,
Yeah.
maybe one more.
Of course. Yeah. Sure, Sarah.
You're doing so much within our district, so many positive things that are impacting our students and our staff.
Thank you.
What do you see as maybe, and this is a challenging question, I'm sure, what do you see as
Okay.
maybe the most important thing that you're currently doing in your role?
Oh, yeah, that is a challenging question. But I know the answer. It's those little moments that I mentioned. Because I give you this presentation and it's all neat and tidy, and these are the things I provide, and these, this is how many children I reach and all of that. But really, it is in the in-between moments. I mentioned them a few of them earlier, but it's just I gave a talk in a classroom 2 weeks ago in Explorer, and I talked about anxiety. I talked about anxiety attacks, and a girl came up to me as I was packing up my backpack to go, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I had one of those. It did feel like an elephant was sitting on my chest. Thank you for talking about this today. Oh, I'm going to get, yeah. So it's those moments, I think, that are my most important, and, and helping the exchange student who didn't know Google Docs at the beginning of the year, and just having me available to help with that. And now I touch base with her regularly because of course she's far away from home and missing home, and so I touch base with her regularly. I would say it's those moments, those in-between moments that aren't written down in the slideshow, but are the most significant, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned TV broadcasting, and if you haven't done it, you might want to think about doing a mindful minute or something on a weekly basis where you have an opportunity to
Yes.
get on the announcements.
That is exactly, so yes, with Aaron, I want to get the kids on the couch and have them have a mindful moment and lead that, and maybe me come on and lead that too, and then transition it to the kids, because I think, for the high school teachers, it's, we've got this 54, 50, whatever, do you know the minutes, Adam, by heart? We have these minutes, and they're all for content, we've got to get through our content, but just to show those brief, quick, refocusing, recentering moments, I think to show that they can be effective, and maybe through that vehicle. That's a great idea, Chris, yes. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Well, you're doing so much, and it sounds like you already have wheels in motion for things that you want to continue to do and ideas that you want to do next year. So I guess the big question, Adam, is this is a grant-funded position, so what is the timeline to know if you get reallocated funds?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, without, taking too much of a shot at the state agency, I mean, this was something last year, the grant, they got postponed and postponed and postponed. We were very fortunate to have a subject matter expert with a graduate degree from Columbia already on the staff, so we had kind of talked with Heather, like, hey, this might happen, and then, it's probably gonna happen, and then, the percentages went up all summer, but like, we didn't really know till July, August that it was gonna be solidified, so we really lucked out. If, most districts wouldn't have had to took the lead time, or really found the person with the expertise that Heather has to make this happen this year. So we're kind of in that same holding pattern with the Health Resource Advocate Grant. Heather's attended some conferences, or a conference that it sounded positive that would be renewed. I know in the governor's proposed budget, there are categorical funds that she's proposing to support mental health, and actually even the Trails program is actually named in that budget, so looks like we made the right choice, at least in terms of what the state is prioritizing. There are some other funding options, $31AA dollars, which is another categorical fund that we can use to support student mental health, and that might be an option for next year as well. But one of the things I'm trying to get the board to see through this series of presentations, right? We had Amanda lead us in last week, we have Heather here now, and then we'll have Serenity and Gemini in on our next meeting, is really the capabilities that all these different assets are being able to bring in to provide to our staff and students. So I think if you see those, you kind of understand the impact that they're making, and hopefully understand why the state needs to continue to fund these supports. It's very trendy right now to do this, but it can't be a one and done thing. So we're hoping that we can get this finalized, and we're really just kind of waiting to hear more information. So good news is there are options available, but it would be nice to have all these support services continue on. So I'll keep you updated.
Anything else that you?
Thank you for the opportunity to present. This is an amazing role, and I embrace it and love it, and I will always give it my best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank you, Heather.
Bye.
Alright. Next on the agenda is superintendent's report.
So I just wanted to highlight the professional development that took place during the half-day last Friday. As Heather alluded to, in keeping with Board Goal 1 and Board Goal 4, we are continuing to make a commitment to integrating staff mental health support whenever possible. We've talked a lot about how we're trying to support the students, but we reflect on all the different challenges that our staff have faced and continue to face, trying to make sure they're getting the support that they need. That continues to be a focus area. Certainly not perfect, but the effort is being made whenever possible to integrate that into our staff meetings and professional development. Otherwise, because you'll see that common theme throughout all the different agendas from the buildings, not just for this PD, but in previous ones as well. In keeping with no surprise, as you know, since the board approved the adoption of a new core literacy program at the elementary, that continues to be the main focus area for professional development at both elementary schools. The middle school used the PD time to really focus in, again, on literacy, specifically informational text, and how to read, decipher, and analyze informational texts. And at the high school, they continue to make good progress on core bill number 5, standardizing the grading system there. Had an opportunity to briefly sit on some of the conversations that were taking place in the different groups as that PD was facilitated, and really found those to be thoughtful, a lot of good insights, and so a good collaborative approach to taking on a very difficult topic. Upcoming events, as I've already mentioned, at the 20 March meeting, we'll have our detection dog team in for the Ed update. And then in April, Paige Paulson will be back to provide a recap of winter athletics and a preview of spring athletics. And after that, it's handbook season. So kind of know what to expect here over the next few months. So pending any questions, that's my report for today.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
Sarah kind of mentioned just that position. Does the Educators Association here, and any throughout the state, ever have any type of like action item in which they request superintendents or community members to write in to their state or local officials to ask for certain budgeting? I mean, I have it in my career, I'm sure like lots of where you kind of like, this is a moment of action, please, contact whoever is the person that's kind of in charge of our area to make sure like we're using these funds. Can you please ensure these are funds in the next budget? I mean, do we have anything statewide that
So that's kind of
MEA or anybody's ever implemented?
That's part of the method to the madness here, right, is that by bringing them in, those folks into these meetings, right, we're informing the board and any community members that are watching as well to see like, those resources are actually being used and they are making a difference in our schools, right? They're actually reaching staff, they're reaching students in a meaningful way. But I would say, ironically, I mean, just amongst the folks in the room right here, we're a member of several different entities, educational entities. I'm a member of MASA, board member of MASB. We have MEA members in the room. So all those different professional entities collectively, if they're all rowing in the same direction, that's a pretty powerful voice to suggest that these resources are needed. We're not just asking for something that's not being used. These are actually needed. Student mental health, staff mental health, I think is well documented that this is something we need to be responsive to. And there is that opportunity to lobby our elected officials that this is support that needs to be ongoing. Outside of those groups, I mean, if you're just a member of the community, sometimes that voice, because it's unaffiliated, there's no bias connected to it, that can send a powerful message as well.
Perfect.
I guess I should say perceived bias, right? But you know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we just did it for ours in the financial industry, is they just send like a template letter. Here's the letter. Just go ahead and paste it into your emails, put your name on it. Here's your congressperson for your area and send it out. Because it has just a little bit more detailed, maybe what funds were used, what the new balance, but I was just looking at the budget. They have $300 million, making sure that whatever it's looking for in social emotional learning is, in there. So it's just
But again, if you're
something
a
I'll
parent,
think about maybe seeing.
Freestyle a letter, because your child has been supported by Amanda or Serenity and Gemini or Heather, or the additional school psychologist we've been able to bring in this year with special categorical funds, or you feel more comfortable with your child having a school resource officer that's around the campus that they can connect with, and that additional presence. Feel free to advocate for that, because all those things are not part of our standard operating budget. They're all being funded by either grants or one-time categorical funds that we're leveraging to provide those resources. So, that every voice helps.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Adam? Okay, board committee reports. Just one from ISOA. This was the February 1st meeting. You'll see that it's in your board packet with more comprehensive notes, but Jennifer Smith was our legislative update. She gave a very, very comprehensive, as she always does, updates. You'll see all the notes there. This was just after the new Congress was installed. Superintendent roundtable update was from Andrew Smith, who is the superintendent from Weberville Community Schools. And mark your calendars, because we have a statewide speaker October 3rd. I know it's a while from now, but Jamie Ballmer is an author of Schools Cannot Do It Alone, and he will be speaking to the Williamston Regional Chamber. He will also present to superintendents, board members, and community members during a special evening meeting at Holt High School. So more details to come, but mark your calendars for October 3rd for that. We also looked over our current ISOA bylaws and looked over information on officer elections and gave district updates. Any questions about any of that? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to some discussion items. The first one is network switch replacements. I believe this is Mr. James Doyen.
Good evening. So I'm here to recommend the purchase of replacement network switches for our schools. If any of you are unfamiliar with what a network switch is, it's essentially a device that connects our computers to the internet. So all of the computers in our buildings need to connect to these to get to the internet. Currently, about 70% of them are no longer supported by the manufacturer, some of which are 10 plus years old. So they're getting old. There's concerns about the reliability of the switches. They do have a lifetime warranty, so if they fail, we can replace them. However, it seems like now would be a good time to replace them. Just want to recommend that we purchase replacement switches. So there is a government grant program called E-Rate that we can take advantage of to replace the network switches. It should reduce the cost of replacing them by about 50%. I have applied for E-Rate funding for this purchase, pending board approval. Assuming the board does approve this, then the next step would be to, once the competitive bidding process has been finished, select a service provider and sign an agreement with them saying that we would like to purchase the hardware from them. And then we would then go to USAC, which is the government entity that facilitates the E-Rate program, and apply for a refund for about half the cost of the network switches. I'll speak to some of the benefits of replacing network switches. So the first one is reliability. So obviously if we get new network switches, we don't have to worry so much about the network switch failing when we need it. We're noticing that we have had to replace at least, I think, 2 or 3 network switches since the beginning of the school year that failed. And thankfully, we do have, sometimes we have extra hardware laying around, but many times we don't. And HP, they're always very quick to give us a replacement unit, but it's not instantaneous. It's usually the next day or the day after, so it can be an outage. So with the newer switches, we should expect to have better reliability, enhanced security. So newer switches, they'll receive updates. They'll have more up-to-date security protocols, so we don't have to worry about potentially having our network compromised from the outside or inside by exploiting the fact that we have some older hardware. And then also, we would, if we get new switches, increase our support for PoE devices, which we're talking like, badge readers, access points. Eventually, at some point in the future, if we replace our phone system, which we will have to eventually, IP phones. And so by replacing these switches, that will set us up to potentially to support the increased need for PoE power for our devices in our building. One thing I wanted to point out was due to some of the complications with the process, I have had to put out 2 RFPs to request that vendors bid on purchasing replacement switches. The first one The responses that I got, they didn't meet the requirements of the initial RFP, and so I had to revise the first RFP and let everybody know, sorry, we're not going to accept any of these offers. I'm going to put out a second RFP. And so everybody was aware, but I had to essentially rewrite the first RFP so that way the vendors that were interested in making us offers could make valid offers based on what we need in our buildings, based on our fiber optic cabling, the type of fiber optic cabling we have. So that is currently in process. So because of some of the timing with the E-rate grant program, I am requesting permission to sign a offer once the process is closed, which I believe is on right here, March 18th. So that'll be between this meeting and then the next meeting. So because in order for us to actually take advantage of the E-rate program, we have to have something signed before their funding application window closes. And so because I've had to put out 2 RFPs now, it's essentially pushed the process back by 28 days because you have to leave the RFP out for 28 days. And so the timing of it, unfortunately, is very narrow. And I want us to be able to take advantage of the E-rate grant program because we're talking about $120,000 for these. So if we can cut that in half, then that would be in our best interest. And if you have any questions.
Are the security cameras in the district PoE devices right now?
No,
No.
no. Yeah, we have their analog to DVR unit cameras. Yeah, so that's another thing that would need to be upgraded.
I'm looking at you going, is that good?
It would be good to upgrade, yes.
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
much so.
We're looking at, touching on the cameras, and it's a bit off topic, but we are looking as we expand the camera system to bring in, what do they call them, MVRs? There's a different term that are more digital formats, so those cameras will work off a more outdated system and then kind of gradually go back and replacing analog devices over time.
You said the phone system is currently analog as well?
Exactly, yeah. We don't currently have an IP-based phone system either. So we would need to have, the way I put out the RFP was we want all PoE switches because pretty much the need has gotten to that point. And so that will set us up to transition into acquiring some of these upgrades that we'll need in the future. That way we don't have to come back and buy another set of new switches, so.
Okay.
So what James is saying is for us not to lose out on a significant amount of funds. Our next meeting is not until the 20th.
So I don't, if I jump in, I don't think you
Yes.
need to do anything
Okay.
different procedure-wise. I
Okay.
think it's an awareness that, if there's no concerns, the only risk we're running is that we want to get the E-rate rebate, I guess, for lack of a better term, which you're going to run regardless. So that risk doesn't change. So you can formally approve it on the 20th of March.
Yeah.
We're just looking for kind of we've done this before for buses and other things, right? Like, there's no show-stopping issues that you're identifying. James will just kind of sign that, and then you can officially approve it a couple days later.
This is just informational awareness.
Yeah, as long as you're fine with him acknowledging, signing the agreement for the amounts that are indicated in the memo.
Sounds good. I'm good.
Any other questions for James? Thank you so much.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thanks, James.
All right, moving on to Adam is going to update us on the Jewel citations we have offered.
Yeah, the bottom line up front, there's a lot of legalese that we could spend a lot of time admiring here, but the bottom line up front is, as you know, the board signed on to a class action lawsuit earlier this year. That lawsuit via the attorney attorneys that were representing us has been settled, or I should say there's a settlement offer that's on the table. As you have seen in the information, that the recommendation from our attorneys is to accept the settlement as proposed, and I would concur with that recommendation.
Any other questions?
No?
I just have one. Would the settlement money be designated to be used in a certain area?
So originally, it was my understanding that it had to be focused on, I guess you could say, either providing anti-vaping education, deterrence training, or technology that would try to dissuade students from using vapes in schools, such as vape detectors. My understanding of the settlement agreement is that it's not a required component of this. However, we have talked internally about trying to earmark those funds for those purposes, just to keep in the spirit of why the lawsuit was filed in the first place.
Anything else for Adam? Okay, and the next thing on the agenda is the high school theater production spring play. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, being a history person, I like the fact that it's based on historical events and kind of a historical drama kind of production, so it looks intriguing to me.
I will say I did read it, and as a theater major, I think it is a powerful play. And it definitely brings in not only historical concepts, but a lot of other powerful messages in regards to not only history, but societal issues of that time that were impacting women and impacting, others in society. So seems like a powerful play.
Next is the contract recommendations for administrators.
Yeah, in keeping with timelines established by law, we are bringing a recommendation for the renewal of contracts for all of our administrative team. I know it says this in the memo, but I'll just reiterate that these are not the actual contracts in terms of salary, benefits, all those things. That'll come later. But we want to make sure that the board's being provided adequate notice of a recommendation for renewal in keeping with those established timelines.
And I would say if you have any specific questions about any of the administrators, please reach out to Adam to get any of those questions answered from now until the next board meeting.
I will say too that details on the actual composition of the contracts will be brought to the finance committee, which is meeting next week. So that group will have an opportunity to review those and then pass along their thoughts to the full board at our next meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we are to the point of the meeting for action items. Routine action items of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve minutes for the February 6th, 2023 meeting?
Recommend the Board of Education approve minutes for the regular meeting held on February 6, 2023.
Second?
Motion by Julie, second by Chris. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any roll call items. We have 4 separate action items. The first, do I have a motion for approval of Kids Corner and Little Hornets 2023-2024 tuition rate?
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve a 7% tuition increase for Kids Corner Childcare and Little Hornets Preschool as presented. This rate increase will start with the 2023 Kids Camp Summer Program.
I second it.
Motion by Chris, second by Bev. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve board policies to remove policy 5370, communicable diseases, employees, 8590, student safety, 8590R, student safety?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve removal of the following board policies as presented: 5370, communicable diseases and employees, 8590, student safety, and 8590-R, student safety.
Second.
Second. Sorry, Amanda?
Amanda.
Thank you. Motion by Dave, second by Amanda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve board policies to revise? 4040 safety, 8195 weapons-free school zone, 8510 communicable diseases, 8670 administration of medication by school personnel, 8670R administration of medication by school personnel, 8675 epinephrine auto injectors, Williamston High School handbook updates, insubordination, defiance level 2-3.
Make a motion that the Williamston Community Schools Board of Education approve the revision of the following board policies as presented: 4040 safety, 8195 weapons-free school zone, 8510 communicable diseases, 8670 administration of medication by school personnel, 8670R administration of medication by school personnel, 8675 epinephrine auto injectors, and Williamston High School handbook update, insubordination, defiance levels 2 and 3.
I second it.
Motion by Chris, second by Beth. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve board policies to add 7080 sex education and communicable disease instruction?
Move that the Williamston Board of Education approve the addition of the following board policies as presented: 7080, sex education and communicable disease instruction.
Second.
Motion by Dave, second by Amanda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Review of board goals. And we do have one correspondence.
Well, I just make a note about Teresa. She did have, she did unfortunately have to resign from her position as a driver in the district. However, I was pleasantly surprised today to find out that she will be staying on as our trainer. So for new prospective drivers, and if you're out there, we're hiring. But Teresa will be staying on to drive, or train drivers, and we're hopeful that sometime down the future, as her situation dictates, she can come back and rejoin us. She was a great asset to our transportation department.
All right. We are to the second point in our meeting, to citizen comments. I don't see any citizens in the audience. We'll go to.
Well, they are citizens.
Yes, you're right, Chris. Do we have any citizen comments? Seeing none, thank you, Chris. Board member reports and requests. Next on the agenda. Comments. I'll just remind everyone that this is it's the 10th, correct? I get it confused. Either Thursday or Friday, evening of jazz.
This Friday.
Thank you. Evening of jazz is this Friday. So if you are,
And we have a gift basket in it.
Yes, we did get a gift basket available, so you're welcome to bid on that, along with many other wonderful things that are available, as well as going to listen to some music.
Great music.
Yeah. All right.
7 o'clock, right?
Yes, 7 o'clock. All right, with that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.